Recording. Howdy, everybody. My name is J.R. Sparrow. I am the host of West Virginia Commonplace, and West Virginia Commonplace has two sides to it. We have the normal West Virginia Commonplace show, and then we have our newest part, which is the interviews and sessions, where we talk to people that have graceful stories and amazing stories all over the world and have one key thing in common. There was a pursuit, there was a way, there was something that motivated them to change their lives. And today I have with me an amazing lady, and I'm not going to chop her name up. She went over her name with me, and I'm going to make sure I get it right. Mama Oka,
Momoko.
Momoko,
Yes.
Uno,
Perfect. Yes.
Momoko Uno. So the question that we have on our show is, who are you? So let's get the nostalgic question out of the way. Can you answer that for us real quick?
Yes. So I'm a doctor of integrative medicine, and I am also a certified functional medicine practitioner, licensed acupuncturist, and I also have a master's in spiritual psychology with an emphasis on consciousness, health, and healing. And I'm also a Chinese herbalist too. I think I
Whoa.
got everything. Did I get everything?
Yeah, it sounds like that's a lot.
I
One
hope
play, a lot
so.
of titles, a lot of titles. So, can you share with us your journey to the United States and what motivated you to pursue a career in integrative medicine? But one thing I need you to do, explain to the audience first what integrative medicine is.
Okay. Sure. So integrative medicine actually is a little bit of a it's a catch-all phrase. It doesn't mean a whole lot other than you're doing more than one modality. So in my case, I'm doing a whole bunch of different things, right? So that's um I'm doing acupuncture, Chinese herbal medicine, functional medicine, and then psychology, and then nutrition. That's all kind of mixed in together. So it's integrated together. My first degree actually in internal medicine was integrating Chinese herbal medicine and pharmaceuticals. So I already started off in integrative medicine, but there's other integrative medicine practitioners who do all sorts of different integrative medicine that's not the same. So it's not standardized.
Okay.
Yes. So you could be doing two very different random specialties.
So, I have an emphasis that I would like to talk about. I would like to learn about the botanical medicine.
Ah,
Please enlighten me on that because I know what I mean, the audience should know what botanical means, but I know what that means. And I was intrigued when I found this out about, the research we did on you. Botanical medicine. Like,
that's just basically plant medicine, and that encompasses herbal medicine as well as I would also include diet therapy, like with vegetable sources in particular. And so it can be raw meaning not cooked, or can be dehydrated, it can be concentrated. So all that realm of anything to do with plants.
okay, okay. Now, you have another title to you that's pretty amazing. You've written a book.
Yes.
So here's my question. What was like you writing this book? Was there like a challenging time or something that happened that made you decide to write this book? What made you decide to write a book? And please give the audience the amazing title of this book and where they can find it across the internet.
Yeah, thanks so much. Look, I have two books. The first book
Okay.
is a memoir called 14 Days. And that was a 2-week period that I spent in Australia during the Australian lockdown during the pandemic. And they had a government mandated quarantine in a hotel with your doors locked, your windows bolted shut, with a guard outside your door to make sure that you were not contagious before they let you out into the world. And you could only go back to Australia if something dire was happening, because I know I'm Australian. Sorry, I should have probably said that. So my mother was dying, and I was given this opportunity to go back to see her one last time before she passed away. So it's called 14 Days because it's this 2-week government mandated solitary confinement that I went through. And sadly, she passed away. So it's that whole process. And then I also almost died during the whole process. I got extremely ill. I have a pre-existing immune system disorder that completely flared up accidentally. And so it's the whole craziness that I went through and how I then recovered from that whole experience.
Okay, so it was almost like it was a little bit of therapy along with, I mean, you had some tragedy, and sorry to hear about your mother,
Thank
and
you.
and all prayer for her. Um, so and thank you for going over the themes inside of this book. So people definitely take a moment in time to check out this book. Is there a physical copy or is it just an electronic copy of this
Both.
book?
It's available in hard copy, hardcover, paperback, ebook, audio. It's out there.
Okay, so one thing that we
Yes.
do on the show, we do this thing called the shameless plug. And the shameless plug is where we just kind of get out the information so that people can know where they can meet and greet you across the internet and interact with you. Could you do a shameless plug for us real quick and let everybody know where they can meet you and greet you across the internet?
Absolutely. I am on through my website, momokowrites.com. And I think also on Instagram, you can find me too. I'm very slow to social media. So, but I am there with my name, Momoko Uno. You can find me. There's probably a couple of different profiles that are up. So, but those are probably the best way. There's also LinkedIn too, but that's, that might be a little bit tricky to, I'm not sure. I'm not even sure how. I'm very, as I said, I'm very new, but momokowrites.com is a great way to get in touch with me.
Okay, to
Yes.
interact, and I thank you for that because a lot of times, we're all in this crazy agreement that some people have a different place to go, and going to LinkedIn too, where you're a business professional too, that makes sense. So definitely, everybody inside the show notes, you'll be able to have links and different ways to find you. So that's another thing that's a benefit of being on a podcast. You can get that information in the show notes. So everybody, after you listen to the show or before you listen, click on those links and definitely head over to her. So um, let's talk about this.
Yes.
You emphasize the importance of laughter and humor and healing. Can you explain how you incorporate this philosophy into your practice?
So well, of course, it has to be appropriate because sometimes people aren't really ready to, smile or laugh. But if there's an opportunity, I'll try to get a joke in there if I can. But I have to be very respectful of my patients and honor where they are in their healing process because, sometimes throwing in a joke at the wrong time is, it's gonna land like lead. So I have to be very, very careful about that. And it has to be the right type of humor too. So, but over the years, I've definitely noticed that if especially if they're in, like if I'm doing acupuncture or something and we're mid session on them and they are, if they're able to move some of their energy and we're going through something that's a little bit dark, if you are able to bring humor and laughter into the treatment, then it really does shake the energy up and it lifts people's vibrations. So I try to, whenever possible, and if that person's receptive, then I will try to be as light and hearted as possible. And
Okay.
I'll yeah, and I've over the years have, one of the reasons why I started writing in the first place is because I started telling all these like little stories to my patients that I've made up over the years, and that's kind of how my book even started, is because when I think patients feel like they have a practitioner where the practitioner can provide some kind of a relatable story, because I think most people feel quite alone when they're going through an illness, and when they feel like, oh, somebody understands me, I think that usually makes them feel better. So that's
Okay.
why I
So,
wrote this. Yeah, go ahead.
so basically, like that candor, the candor and
Yeah.
in that rapport that gets built there, it's more than just bedside manner. It's, hey, I'm here. We're both human. Let's interact. And I like the way that your comedy has a lot of intuitive thought to it. So you gauge it to see where you can go with it. You don't just
Yeah.
go out there full throttle and tie everything up that way. So
Yes.
we get that out the way. Let's talk about a serious part inside of your philosophy. How do you see the relationship between consciousness, health, and healing in your work?
So that's all tied in together because so in general, a lot of the people that come to see me have chronic illnesses and they have usually already tried all sorts of conventional medicine already. So they're looking for something that's outside of the box. And most of these people have had some kind of traumatic experience. that's usually trauma over time really affects the physical body. So I try to use, there has to be an awareness that that person, the patient, develops about how their physical state might have affected their emotional or mental state. So that's the consciousness part. And as they work through any kind of irrational beliefs, like probably the biggest irrational belief that most people have who've been sick for a long time is I'm never going to get better again. So, we work through these different types of beliefs, and, so that patients become more aware of the way that they're thinking and their thought patterns. And that helps a lot, because then you don't have a defeating idea that you're not going to ever get better again. So if there's a part of you that thinks, oh, look, hey, I might get better, that's way better than I'm never going to get better again. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, and I like your approach to that because that makes it, it makes it more warm feeling, and like I said, that's really great there. Now you have another side of you because you have multiple sides. You're a mother to three,
Yes.
two adopted and two in one special need, correct? Now, what's relatable between us, not the adoption portion doesn't matter because loving a child and loving children is the proper thing to do because it gives you a different type of love you didn't have before. But a special needs, I have an autistic son.
Ah,
So I know that, and you and I both know with three of them altogether, there's a different type of love that you have to give to all three of them. So
yeah.
how do you balance your professional and personal responsibilities with having these children?
That it's tricky, and it really is day to day. My kids are older now, they're teenagers, so it's not like I have toddlers in the house. That's very difficult when you have children that are very little and demanding. So at this point, my kids are older, so they don't need as much. So I do have more wiggle room to be able to write and do things. And not that I'm ignoring them or anything, but they can be ignored a little bit more than when they were 3 years old. But it is very, very tricky. My youngest, the one that has, she has an intellectual disability, so she definitely needs more attention. And because she's 13, but she's more like she's like 5 or 6, or depending on the different skill, it varies a lot in terms of her ability.
Okay, and I've had similar things. My son, he's 15 now, and you go through a lot developing things with him, and the milestones that the other ones have, you have to kind of. I know you have to be progressive.
Yeah.
You have to be way more progressive with your youngest. So we do have that in common. Now let's move over to integrated medicine one more time.
Yeah.
What do you believe are the most significant benefits of integrated medicine compared to conventional approaches? And the reason I ask that is because there's always this person that questions everything. So when they come to you and everything else has failed, you're sometimes, well, you are the last alternative, or sometimes you're the beginning for some people because some people don't want to take the traditional way of doing things.
Right, absolutely. So for the people who come in as a last resort, they're usually coming in, and I feel quite lucky this way because they've been referred by somebody else. So it's good that they almost have already heard that oh, hey, you should go see this person because I tried them, and I had X, Y, and Z, and I tried medication, I tried these things and it didn't work. So why don't you try something different? So they're already somewhat open-minded because somebody that they knew and trusted recommended me. So that I feel very fortunate. If I had to cold sell somebody on what I did, I think that would be really tricky, because especially if you're not an open-minded person, to say like, hey, I'm going to give you a bunch of plants, I'm going to ask you to change your diet and make you eat things that you don't want to eat. You know what I mean? That's a hard sell, I think. So
True.
in general, the patients who already come in are seeking it out because they already are saying, look, I'm so sick and tired of feeling so sick and tired. What can
It's
I
so
do
true.
to, what can I do to feel better? So in that respect, I have it easy. But um for the people, and the other thing is that also to keep in mind, a lot of the people that try alternative medicine already have some kind of sensitivity to medication. So they're having abnormal, well, I shouldn't say abnormal, unusual reactions to conventional medicine. So my population of patients is quite different from people, like, for example, if you had taking medication and it's working great for you, hey, no need to change that. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Right.
but I would tell them there's going to be lifestyle changes. And are you really prepared to change your diet? Are you ready to look at the stress in your life? Are you ready to look at your sleep hygiene? Are you getting enough rest? Are you ready to look at the relationship and your relationships in your life and to see if they're working or not? Like I really try to take a holistic view of what's working, what's not. And some people don't want to change. They're looking for a magic pill. And I'm not gonna, I can't, I'm not a magician, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And I respect that, and that's the most personable thing you've said in this episode, and it's one of the gems because you're here to help
Yeah.
facilitate, alleviate portions, give some type of relief, but it can't all just go away like that. And I like you for saying that and being realistic with that because a lot of people, they just, you know how people are. So, you've talked about a few of your experiences on here thus far, and a lot of overcoming differences because like you said with the type of medicine you do, it's hard sometimes. You have to be fortified and stand up for yourself in certain areas. So can you share a moment that your philosophy made a significant impact on you, like your drive and your job basically? So like someone came to you, they were a little skeptical, but you were able, and I know because of HIPAA laws and stuff, you can't say certain things,
Yeah.
but was there a certain moment that like you as a person, like after you were done seeing a patient, you knew that, hey, I found my mark. This is where I belong.
Well, I think that hopefully I feel that way a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit every single day. You know, that there are little things that I do every day that make me realize, oh, I'm in the right place. Um I think it's unrealistic for me to have these huge, like, oh my God, this is such a miraculous thing that I did for somebody. But I'm content with, like, if somebody got a little bit better, because with chronic illness, it's those little steps that really matter, because as you said, it's unrealistic. You come in once and then I've erased 20 years of issues. So I do celebrate the steps.
Okay, and I definitely can appreciate that because, like I said, once again, that's being realistic. So, community connection. You have these books, you have these stories, and you told us earlier how you connect with your patients. With your books, that's connecting with a whole nother audience because you have
Yeah.
patients, but it's people abroad. So, as an author and as a person that helps people in their illnesses and afflictions, I will say afflictions. Um, how does the community to you differ from the people that read your books to the people that you help? I understand the physical portion, but like to me, as a podcaster, when someone writes into me and says, "Hey, your podcast saved my life," it puts a spark in me. Doesn't I get no gratification from it, but it puts a spark and it makes me interested in that person, and I go very deep with them, and we figure out like, "Hey, you got to a point because you heard a portion of the podcast, one minute and 29 seconds, and that saved you. Fine. Now, this is what I want to know about you. What made you even come to the show and listen? What was intriguing about the guests? What turned your life where you could just be sitting staring at a wall? What made you decide to listen to West Virginia and Commonplace that day? On that part. In person, when I do live shows and people come up and they know the show, or we're at a podcasting event and people know it and they do this and that, the feeling for me is different because I know that those people listen to podcasts. I know that they were already driven to shows. So it's kind of, I don't want to say like it's a less effect for me, but it's not as fulfilling as someone that just comes out of the blue.
Yes.
So could you give me your emphasis on that with you, like from the regular, from the people that read your books to the people that are patients?
Well, you know, I've I have I've had a few people who've reached out to me who I don't know at all, right? And it's interesting to get their feedback because there were a few people, especially with my second book, the fiction book that's called Bringing
Okay.
Sunshine Back to my mind. Sorry, I almost forgot my book's name.
Looks
Um, but yeah, there's this one woman that she said that it changed her life. It had such a huge impact on her, and that was really touching to hear that somebody was so comforted by reading in my book, and they felt that the character was so relatable. I thought that that was really amazing, and this is the reason why I write, is so, again, so that people don't feel alone in these really traumatic experiences that they have, that they know that somebody else felt the same way, went through a similar experience, had the same kind of thoughts. And it's precisely the reason why I want to reach a larger audience, so that I can, share some of these feelings and thoughts with people that I might not have the opportunity to work with in person.
Okay, and I love that. Now we got to go over to a heartfelt moment. You gave us something very personal. You lost your mother. Well, you didn't lose your mother. Your mother went to another plane.
Yes.
Yeah, she went to another plane, and we all will get there one day. So I
Yeah.
want you to keep your smile on. But your mother watches over you. And it's times that you look in the sky, you never look at the ground. You may look at the ocean, because I don't know if your mom liked the ocean or what her area wasn't on Earth, but she has a place on Earth that you look and you can see and you can feel. So when all the stress from work, everything in life, the children, and you take that time, because we both know, because my father passed away too, so I know we both do this. You take a moment to reach back out to them. What is it that you say to your mom, and what does she say to you when life gives you a lot of stress?
What does my mom say to me? That's a good question. I'm not sure how to answer that question. It's really,
All right, so look, let me put some
let's see.
filler in here.
Yes.
I'll put some filler in here and you think about it. So what happens to me is my father died in 1994, and I'm 38 now, and on Saturday I'll be 39. So that I've got tenure. I've got a long time that he's been
Yeah.
gone. So what happens with me is there's moments, and you become definitive because you see certain things, your people see certain things in you that are from your family members. So my father, people see traits in him that I never knew about. And mind you, if he died then and you put the time behind that, that's almost 50 years, 30 years now, but people had to know him longer than that to get to where we are today. So people that almost have 60 years of knowledge of my father, or the time he was on earth, they can say, hey, your mannerisms just like him, your demeanor, this and that. And just this past weekend, I went back to Virginia, where I'm from, and I went to his grave. And I took a moment, I sat there and talked to him, different things like that. But the odd thing was, there were these rocks. They were just normal, like they were white crystal rocks. And I don't know why, for some reason, they were near his grave. I picked three of them up, I cleaned them up, I took them home. And the strangest thing is they feel, even though that has nothing to do with his life or anything, but them being there with him all that time, I felt like I needed to have those with me. And when I look at those rocks, let them shimmer in the sun in the last few days when I've done it, I know that he's showing me something there. Don't know the clear picture because we never get that right then and there, because we both know the communication with him is different. It's not like the common conversation that you and I are having now. It's a whole different plane. So I know by him giving me the initiative to pick up those rocks, he was saying, hey, you need to do something with these. So my children, I passed along those rocks. I only held on to them long enough for me to do what I needed to, but I said, hey, this is a part of your granddad. So the message he gave to me is, even though they were not with me, hey, you need to allow them to have a piece of him, have something, even though that's just the ground beside him.
Yeah.
It was just a point that, hey, the sun hit those rocks, and I've never looked at him in the last 20 plus years that I've gone to that grave. And it was just, something that gave me a little bit of spirituality, gave me a morality or a motivation. So that's how he talked to me in that one instance.
Gotcha, gotcha. That's a beautiful experience to be able to feel like you're still connected with people that have passed on. And yeah, I do feel, because both of my parents have passed away, and I feel like they are around me all the time. Like usually I'll have these little like check-ins with my parents when I'm driving to work. And
Okay.
it's just kind of this thing where I'll imagine them sitting on top of the car or sitting next to me or something, like hanging out with me, and I'm just having this dialogue internally. And that's usually when it happens. It can also happen at just random times where they'll just kind of pop into my mind. Or there can be like a piece of music that comes on or something that will remind me of them. Or I'll see a dress or something that reminds me of my mother, and then I'll think about her. Or so they come up in all sorts of different ways, like in trees or in animals, or I think that I feel their presence in through different realms and different dimensions and through different situations.
Okay, okay. And I like that because right there you gave the audience a part of you that probably haven't heard anywhere else or seen anywhere else. So thank you so much for that. Now, here's the thing. You have a house full of pets, don't you? You do?
I
How
do.
do your animals contribute to the joy and balance in your life?
So I think that my animals are incredible, and everybody I'm sure thinks that their own animals are incredible too, but they are just the cutest little things ever. They do also push my buttons too, because some of them act out, and so I have some moments with them which makes it very, very real. But they're just so adorable, and they also seem to know, like, for example, if I'm not feeling well or something, then they'll come and like check on me. And it's just pure joy and love that I have. And I think it's very healing for me to be around, for animals to evoke that kind of energy inside of me. And there are many of them. There's 6 cats, 2 dogs, 2 guinea pigs, and a hamster. So it's a tremendous amount of joy that I'm surrounded by every day.
Okay, okay. Now, to wrap everything up, and one thing that we need to talk about is Omni Wellness.
Yeah.
How did Omni Wellness come about, and what is the triumphant story that you have to tell about it? And then we want another story, and this is the story to help people understand that the world is real. Tell us about a pitfall that's happened with Omni Wellness,
A
if you don't mind.
pitfall? Oh,
Yes.
sure, absolutely. So Omni Wellness is a group practice of integrated practitioners that we all integrate lots of different things. But we have Chinese medical people, acupuncturists, Chinese herbalists, functional medicine practitioners, chiropractors, skincare specialists, etc. It's a group of, I think, probably more than 20 people that work together. So it's a really amazing place. We're located in New York City. So one of the big challenges that we had was the pandemic, where we and all medical and healthcare facilities almost collapsed, because I think we were the only one in our entire building that actually lasted at the size that we are. And we were just very, very, very fortunate that we were able to keep our doors open, because pretty much all the other healthcare offices, unfortunately, in our building closed down. And then as others closed down, we acquired a whole bunch of new practitioners. So even though it was very challenging to lose a lot of people, we then acquired a lot of other people. So it was like we found almost like we were a family before, and now we're a bigger family now.
Okay, I like that.
So it's lovely.
Okay, so now, um, to the audience, the way that we end this show is the person that is at the very end of the show, you give a mission statement. You let people know what exactly your interpretation of life is. And your interpretation of life goes really deep. So I'm going to hand the floor over to you. Give us your mission statement, and then I'm going to come back with something else and we'll keep going or we'll finish it up.
Um, I think that So I think we all have are born into life with quite a lot of trauma. And I think our individual mission statement is to heal our own personal trauma. So in terms of my work, and then, as a medical practitioner, and then also through my books, my mission statement is to not only just obviously to heal my own personal trauma, but also to help other people along their journey to heal whatever type of pain, illness, if it's emotional, physical, mental, spiritual, and then to be able to find more joy and love, forgiveness, fulfillment in their lives.
And I like that. So, quick testimony about you, real quick. And I know I chopped your name up earlier,
It's
and
always
that's
good.
and I kind of dodged around it, and I want to try it one more time. Mama Oko,
Momoko.
Momoko,
Yes.
Momoko Uno. I'm going to tell you this real quick. Perseverance is the middle name for you. Resiliency is your junior part to your name, and the reason that these are there is because you had a tough time. you decided that you wanted to be alternative. And in being alternative, there's a lot of challenges that take place. We both know that. We've heard it in the conversation. And along that way, we have ups and downs. The pandemic is something that you and I have, and if anyone didn't exist in this time, well, we all existed, but
Yeah.
everyone has a story, but we have something that's so definitive that we're going to be telling this for the rest of our lives. You'll be telling a story, and I'll be telling a story somewhere in Florida at a retirement community in another 30 years. And the thing about that is that you're doing it now and you're helping people with it now. So I want to give you like the greatest hug on earth because not a lot of people would do this. Not a lot of people would let their scars show. Not a lot of people would let the hurt show. You healed from the hurt and you kept healing and you're still healing. Healing is what you do. That's your last name. So
Yes.
when you take that healing portion and you provide it to other people, it puts a burden on you because you become a caretaker. Beyond any of the medicine, being a caretaker is a hard thing because every person you meet, greet, and intertwine with takes a piece of you. And you sometimes get a piece back, but sometimes you don't get a piece back because some people have to be selfish and have to regain themselves. And you know that.
Yes.
And a lot of people can't stomach that. A lot of people get hurt by that and eventually drives them up a wall and they stop healing. They stop being the healer. Being the healer means you are the giver. Being the giver, if you never read that book, I hope you read it one day if you've never read The Giver. The giver is the hardest person to be in the world, to be in the universe. The taker is fine because the taker can just do whatever and gratification and satisfaction for whatever. But you have to go through life and decide that I'm going to help someone and I'm not going to look for reciprocity. And that's the hardest thing to do because there's sometimes you look in the mirror and you have to be in a great spirit, but sometimes you question things. But you are resilient, like I said earlier, and you're brilliant at the same time with this. You know that the world loves you and the love is reciprocated. And as long as that keeps going on, that's the fuel that keeps you going. That's what gets the muscles going. That's what gets you to do the cartwheels if you can still do a cartwheel. And and I want to tell you, thank you for sharing this on this show and letting the audience know that it's all right to not be all right.
Yes, exactly. Pain, unfortunately, suffering is part of being alive. And the more that we acknowledge it and then also can share with other people, hey, I'm in pain and I need your support. And how can we support each other? I think that we as a community can be stronger.
Okay. And then your nickname is transparency. You learned this technique when you were a child from your mother and father. They taught you that opaque means that you can't see through it. Translucent, you might see something, but it might not be what it is. But they showed you transparency through the way they raised you and the way that they loved you. And I don't even know them. So that transparency, you pass it down the road to everyone that's around you. So being able to be transparent and to give transparency to people, that is another part of you that's not a skill, it's not something that is manufactured, it's just something that's in you. So please never stop doing that because not a lot of people can be transparent. A lot of people are translucent. It looks like this, but when you really get past the surface, it's not. So please keep that and keep that little science we just did there with you because that is something you do for people. If you never even made that statement, you do it just by how you carry yourself. So I want to
Thank
tell you thank you
you.
for that.
Thank
And
you.
this has been an amazing show. And I want to let the audience know one more time that with this show, I always tell everybody the after part of the show is the show notes. Going to the show notes, you're going to find things and they'll be able to interact with you. Now, on a deeper level, they can go to both your books and find two different areas that are in sync, along with your services and everything else that can be done with you. So, as a podcaster, I want to say this to you. I do believe that you will be a podcaster soon. I do see something in your future. You have a motivation, you have a mode and means. You don't have to waste it being a guest anymore. You can make an amazing content. So I will challenge you to do that, please.
Okay, thank you.
Um, and on that note, I'm JR and you're
Momoko Uno.
no, and we're signing off.